You tune into the Bellingham Podcast for the last week of the year, December 31st, 2021. Goodbye. This is episode 204.
Auld Lang Syne, y'all.
From that winter wonderland city by the Salish Sea, I'm AJ Barce.
And straight out of 98226 with some de-icer, my name is Chris Powell. On this episode, AJ and I are wrapping up this year of 2021. We did 27 episodes. We're going to look back on some of the highlights. There were no lowlights because anytime AJ and I are on the stick, it's a party. Won't you join us? This is the last edition of the Bellingham Podcast for 2021.
It's the end of the year as I know it, and I feel fine, Chris.
You should have let me have that one. I feel fine too. No, actually, boy, I am not a fan of snow and ice.
Dude. Oh, yeah. So if you're listening to the show and you're wondering where we've been, in the Pacific Northwest, we've had like in California, we had the big droughts, the beginning of the middle of the summer.
We had a heat dome in the summer.
We had the heat dome here in the Pacific Northwest, which led to a bunch of forest fires.
Well, we had the atmospheric
river. Yeah, we drowned.
that was a second sign of the apocalypse.
Yep.
Now we've got Frozone. Obviously,
Frozone.
Frozone from The Incredibles
Elsa
went
is
all
mad.
over the place. Yeah. So that's a third sign of the apocalypse. You know what's next, AJ?
What's next?
Locusts.
Oh, let's not do that.
Anyway,
But-
it's been bad.
Yeah. So at the time of this recording, it's 4 degrees Celsius here in we're in Casa Barce recording. But
We're not going to record outside on a weather condition
no, man. Dude,
afternoon like this.
And that's 4 degrees without the wind chill. Like if the wind kicks up, like it's ooh.
Right. And so props to all the folks in Bellingham and Whatcom County who have been housing those who don't have a place to call home.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places around that have been helping out in this emergency weather shelter scene. And so for all of you who are volunteering, all of you who are helping them get a good night's sleep, at least in an environment that's above 4 degrees.
Yeah.
From the Bellingham Podcast, tip of the proverbial hat.
Yeah. And also those, I mean, helping your fellow neighbor, like one of our neighbors, they were without heat. I had a space heater and like everybody just chipped in and just like kept them up until they get their boiler working.
It's the left hook of the flooding that was around Thanksgiving in November. And now we got the right cross with the freezing conditions. So I think I just want to be able to go 60 degrees.
Be nice.
And just kind of
sit at the bay, drink our coffee, do the whole Pacific Northwest hipster thing again.
I'm not a hipster, but I'll hang out with you at that time. Let's talk about this year in Bellingham Podcast land.
This retrospective. So you did the tally. We did 27 episodes plus 2 Analog Explorer special editions.
And all of them were just high quality from AJ Barce and Chris Powell. But I wanted to make mention about something as we're having the last podcast of the year, depending on when AJ uploads this to the syndicated servers.
Dude, it'll be December 31st at 11:59, Auld Lang Syne style. Man.
All right, that's cool. Great. Giddy up. But how many podcasters out there, first of all, still have a podcast? We can talk about that in a second, but also took a break for the holidays.
A few.
Not only did we record our 200th episode, and I'm going to give a spoiler alert ahead of time that we'll talk about, but also that we're doing something during the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
That's just because we are cool like that, and we care about you, our dear listener, to have something new, a late, shiny present in your podcast queue of choice.
Short of the weather keeping us away.
Right. Plus, we also want to make the folks at KMRE 102.3 FM happy as well by providing them an additional show.
And that way they can stream our show on Saturdays, or you could even stream us at kmre.org.
All over the darn internet. So let's talk about these 27 darn episodes.
So we started with our analog resolutions because, man, you and I were just done with the digital, the pandemic, two technologists having to work through a pandemic and be all digital all the time. What could go wrong, Chris?
Yeah, that episode was brought to you by the letters P, T, S, and D.
Oh, man.
It was a difficult year to get through last year. Just because we were all figuring this out together.
Scrambling.
All right, now we've all figured it out more or less, and we've decided to wad up that paper that had the game plan on it and toss it over our shoulder. I don't make resolutions. I wanted to have less digital, more analog in my life, and I believe I've gotten there. But I'm not saying, "Ooh, check that box."
Yeah.
Technology is our life. What about you?
The thing that looking back at that episode and pulling it forward, the thing that now that the PTSD has subsided, and we're all pretty much all medicated or self-medicated at this point. the thing about the analog side of things is that I've noticed that there's been an uptick of that, and it's also in the face of like all of this pure digital metaversey stuff. Like we've hemmed and hawed about it on the show, but like I feel, especially as hopefully Omicron dies off and we get back to a stable footing in the pandemic, the analog side I think is going to be like we've talked about experiences. Like people are going to want to get out as safely as possible, as we've said time and time again.
I want to kind of stop our train for a little bit. I want to address something that, yeah, exactly. I want to address something that I just said, and in realization of those out there, there's a thing called trauma that people do experience. When you're looking at other people through a 2-inch by 3-inch window on your computer screen, that's not necessarily trauma. When you get a bunch of grumpy people yelling at you from a customer support standpoint, that's not necessarily trauma. It's an acute form of trauma. I use the term PTSD jokingly.
Oh, sure.
But that's a serious thing in what's going on. I don't want to make light of what anyone is going through in various circumstances. So for all those cards and letters that you're going to send me about me using that, good luck finding me on the internet. I just wanted to at least clear that up.
Yeah.
It was a tough year.
It was.
And from technologists who spend their life in front of a screen, it kind of was doubly...
sucked.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I mean, we can say that on the air. Like there was anybody that had a deal in tech support, and we've used the show to talk to the last episode. You mentioned the fact that when grumpy people come grumpy at you, that's an opportunity for them, Chris, to learn to use their words. As I tell my 5-year-old, use your words.
It's learning moments. We had them all.
But like going back to our analog resolutions, the thing that I see out of this, and we dovetailed into this audiophilia later in the season. But like the thing that I see coming out of this pandemic is two things. One, people are going to want to check out. I mean, whether that'll be a vacation or if travel is still borked, people will be hitting the trails. Like
different stimulus than the four walls that you may be living in 24/7, 7, 12, 24 hike.
But out of that also, I see a benefit out of this. And that is more and more as somebody who has a little one who's had to deal with that during the pandemic and work and that whole juggling act. I do see the fact that this new digital dovetailing, to use a kind of more polite term, I think is going to help more working people, especially if you have families, because there's that element of flexibility that employers are going to have to keep on the books in some form or fashion, however, whatever industry you may be in.
Yeah.
And that, I think, helps with that balance of analog and digital and work and life, and that balance thing that everybody likes to throw out.
We've learned resilience to make it through 2020 and now 2021. Yeah. And this also applies to the places that we go and shop and leisure. Get some new stimulus in 2022 if at all possible. We also celebrated a 5-year anniversary of starting the Bellingham podcast in February of 2021.
Yep.
Which was a great look back on things.
And a rev of which will be the last rev, because I'm not going to redesign our logo for the 4th time. We're good. This one's sticking.
I like it.
So yeah, we have the current the Compass Rose, the P&W Compass Rose that I designed for the show, and that's going to stick for in perpetuity of the show. Then we kind of got into a few things, because I went on trekking and climbed a mountain. But before that, we did Walden's Pond.
Yes.
And you checked off the grid.
I was off the grid. We didn't talk about it as we were recording or during the process because, hey, life pro tip, folks, if you're going on vacation, don't announce it because, bad stuff might happen. No, my beautiful wife and I had an opportunity to take 6 weeks in Montana. And boy, howdy, was that a fun time in the springtime. We experienced snow in Montana in the springtime.
Right.
But in the meantime, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be doing a podcast when I'm investing in my marital relationship with my lovely wife. So you were able to call in a couple righties from the bullpen, if you will.
I did. I brought in our the Bellingham podcast unofficial field correspondent of the United Kingdom, Dan at Timely_Moments, had him up on the show to talk about P&W and the United Kingdom Wanderlust, because at the time I was kind of a little bit hopeful that travel was going to start back up.
Yes.
And we were talking about our sides of the Atlantic, and kind of the cultures of trekking, Pacific Northwest and UK Wales style.
And with a co-host named Dan who was so nice, you want to do it twice.
Absolutely. I got to get him in stereo, yo. And then a longtime listener and longtime best friend of mine, Dan at Rising Sun Sailor on Instagram, who is officer in the United States Navy. He is also a motorcycle enthusiast, and we talked about the culture and the rides, and the enthusiasm of two wheels and a motor.
I said it when I got back from vacation in mid-May. I'll say it again as we close out 2021. Dan and Dan, thank you so much for filling in when I was in parts unknown to keep the Bellingham podcast juggernaut alive and kicking with your fine co-hosting capabilities and putting up with AJ like I do for all these episodes.
You say the sweetest things to me on and off the mic.
Sugar don't melt in my mouth, sucker. Anyway.
So after we did all of that, there was you had this idea of revisiting what we had done, which was going up the I-5.
Yes. We did that back in the early days because we're looking for content and about Bellingham. But, we talked about where around what's new, because a whole lot of businesses had to say sayonara, and a lot of businesses were saying hello, and so we had to bring you all up to date on things. This little series was a 7-series mini series,
6 or 7. Yeah,
that is like almost that is something I would give the Bellingham Visitor Center.
Yeah.
Give these folks who are coming to Bellingham. Does anyone visit the visitor center anymore? I don't know.
I don't know if it's even open.
Right. But if you have friends, let them, or you're coming into Bellingham, these are the shows for you.
Fun fact, I actually have used our show in reference. Shout out to Elena, our friend and sister in the Watch fam.
Yes.
And we're actually in town and met up with them,
cool.
off the mic and stuff, which was really great. But that was one of the questions. They were like, hey, where do we go? Your town's kind of, different ever since the pandemic. And I was just like, and look between episodes 191 and 197.
That's right.
So yeah, it is. It's a good little reference. And, obviously it'll be something that we will repeat in the future, because I bet you our list by, this time next year will unfortunately have probably changed again.
That sounds like an annual mini-series that we might be able to do. We also talked about get our everyday carry in a pandemic. Normally you carry things when you're going out and about.
Wait, but what do you do with your EDC if you're not out and about, Chris?
I wear my key chain, my titanium pickpocket keychain all around the house.
Wow.
Because I might need to, open up a bottle cap sometime. No, it was just like, what do you do when it's finally time to, what are we rolling with newness? But yeah, there's a whole lot of content. And then finally, the big one.
The big one. I got you to finally climb.
Acquiesce, yes.
Acquiesce and get out. Do Captain Get Out approved activities.
Yes.
And that was climb the Oyster Dome, which is something in the 2 decades plus that you've been here. 3 decades plus. How long have you been in Bellingham?
Oh, freaking centuries.
Okay.
No, I got here in 93. So we're going on about 30 years.
Okay, so 3 decades. You've never been to the Oyster
Dome.
No,
because I don't.
Now you have.
Yes, I have. And this main reason is, while it's beautiful to look out from a distance, to climb up I want to keep
stronger.
I want to keep the show clean. I am a power guy, not someone with endurance and stamina.
I helped you gain hours, if not days, of your life in that activity.
Reframing objected. I object to your reframing. It was difficult, and we talked about it in that episode.
Well, it was also difficult the fact that it was the windiest day I've had up on the dome.
Yeah.
I mean, that was. For audio editing, I apologize, because I tried to clip that the best I could.
Hey, you know what? Money back guarantee on this podcast. That's for darn sure.
You get what you pay for, which is furry.
But hold that thought in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But what do you do after you do 200 episodes?
With that, we've also entered a new era of sponsorships.
Absolutely. Speaking of things that are free, not quite in this case, we actually have a new sponsor for episode 204.
Oh, tell me more, Chris.
AJ, I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but I have been a devotee of the minimalist lifestyle for over a decade now. Yep, I'm so minimal, I don't like using vowels when I type. See, I've eliminated so much clutter from my life in these 10 plus years, there's not much left, just me, my family and friends, and the plaque on my teeth. So wouldn't you know that I nearly squeed without the E's in the squee when I saw a new subscription box service coming in early 2022.
Oh, I love subscriptions.
That's right. The fine folks at Minimal Life have the soon-to-be must-have subscription box service of this new year.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, dear listener, it's time to end your subscription to the Beer of the Month Club, the Old Pasta of the Month Club, Hot Sauce of the Month, Artisanal Cheese of the Month Club, and so on. Hey, by the way, those bougie cheese delivery clubs, they're just government cheese wrapped in a fancy wrapper.
Oh,
anyway,
that's how they do it.
For only $59.99 a month, Minimal Life will ship you a box of awesome directly to your door. Now, those are my words, not theirs. AJ, that's just $2 a day to live life like a minimalist. And don't worry about those pesky porch pirates that have been kind of ruining our Christmas things. This box that they're delivering it is 2 feet by 3 feet.
Oh, sweet. I don't have to use a glitter bomb.
No, and if your thief doesn't have a delivery uniform on when they attempt to swipe your Minimal Life box, they'll stick out like a shopping cart right at the front door of a store with all the packing materials of the stuff someone from the lower mainland purchased so they don't have to declare it when they're going back up to the border. Anyway, AJ, I could tell as I'm talking about Minimal Life, a subscription service, the biggest question on your mind, and yes, I'm still on my medication. But the more important question you should be asking me, podcast partner in crime, is what's in the Minimal Life box?
Okay, Chris, what's in the Minimal Life box?
I'm glad you asked. So each month you will receive one of the finest accessories minimalists need to spark joy in their lives. Hi, Marie Kondo. Anyway, I reached out to the folks at Minimal Life via email, and they mentioned items to be included coming soon will consist of those little succulent plant thingies that you see on all those overly expensive desks on Instagram where people just take pictures of the workspace and never actually do any work on them. Those succulent plants.
Oh.
Anyway, included in your delivery, inspirational posters with very few words in small print, but a whole lot of poster size, like less is more. I know someone who has one of those. He's a real dork. And live with less and I hate stuff. Included in your delivery. Also, compostable cardboard containers, say that 5 times fast, to replace your sturdy aluminum vacuum sealed water bottle, which, let's be honest, eventually will clutter up a landfill when you're done with it after 3 months. I mean, you're like me, right, AJ? You get rid of your water bottle after 3 months because you're a diehard minimalist, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Disposable water containers that are friendly to the environment included. Plus, if you order now, you'll receive upgraded biodegradable packing peanuts that, get this, can also be used as a flavor enhancer to your bowl of pho noodle soup. I've never heard of something dissolving packing peanuts to put in your soup broth, but I'm intrigued with this opportunity from the folks at Minimal Life.
Packed with umami.
Exactly. Don't wait for the subscription box program to sell out, folks. Visit www.thenewshiny.org to order online or call area code 248-434-5508 right now. Just pause the podcast and make that call to start your Minimal Life subscription now. Operators are standing by for your call. Offer only valid in the contiguous 48 states. No international delivery. Monthly fee will be charged on an annual basis on approval of credit, social security number verification, and password to the email account to make sure that they get your email. Items of Minimal Life subscription may differ due to supply on hand. No refunds or returns. Sales tax and additional convenience charges may apply. Thank you, folks at Minimal Life, for sponsoring this episode of the Bellingham Podcast.
And remember, if you want to be a sponsor of the Bellingham Podcast, be sure you email us at tonguethoroughlyplantedincheek@bellinghampodcast.com.
That's right. Anyway, moving on. I got you all choked up, didn't I?
Oh my gosh, the packing peanuts. There is dissolvable packing peanuts.
There are, and
but not for pho soup.
No, because that sometimes it's actually harmful to eat. But the folks at Minimal Life were able to get packing peanuts that can dissolve.
Right.
Tasty pho.
That is less for more.
That's what I live by.
So it's now time for my second favorite part of our show, which is Rad or Sad.
Let's hit it.
So Rad or Sad, where we pick our picks, and you hear if Chris and I think they are rad or if they are sad.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
All right, you got scissors. Go for it. I had paper.
Rad or sad, Chris?
Yes.
The digital
Work it out now.
The digital avatarization, that's a word I had to make up for the show.
That's a heck of a Scrabble word.
Edition for live concerts, a la Fortnite, the metaverse, whatever. I see you're puzzled and
no, I'm old and I have no idea what you're talking about, you young whippersnapper. What's a digital avatar in a concert?
So there is this new thing that kind of developed out of the pandemic, because we couldn't go to concert venues, right?
Right.
And so we had things like the DJ Marshmallow, the guy with the really big white marshmallow face.
I'm nodding just to keep you going.
Dude,
Go ahead.
I had to Google this too, because DuckDuckGo couldn't understand marshmallow. So So there were these heavy hitting DJs, and then like artists like Ariana Grande, apparently
Okay.
Justin Bieber. These are not people I usually listen to, but I was intrigued at the fact that they were using platforms like Fortnite,
Oh, okay.
like the video game
Yeah.
and such, to host live quote unquote concerts, digital, and people. I mean, and we're talking about millions of people tuned in and participated in these experiences. So as someone who does the analog version, you've been to rock concerts and
Oh,
such.
yes.
Rad or sad, the future of, live music being this digital avatar, dare I say Second Life-y experience.
I'm going to go sad. No surprise here. And I got, for my anagram of sad, seriously authentic, and I'm coming up with the
Doubt?
doubt. When it comes to these not genuine, I got to shoot straight. I love watching someone with 6 strings that can go out of tune and amplifiers that need to be like
Totally shredding,
yeah,
ripping,
exactly.
whatever, yeah.
Or someone actually playing a drum kit instead of someone hunched over a laptop looking intently and pressing a bunch of buttons with their fingers. I don't really find that to be my style of live music. So I'm going to go with sad. AJ.
So here's the thing. Like, I find when it comes to the whole metaverse,
Yep.
3D avatars, and I made the joke about Second Life, this is all happened before and shall happen again. I'm going to go Battlestar Galactica. This is sad because we've seen this before. This has actually been done before. I remember way back in my grad school days, there was a competitor, dare I say, to Second Life called V-Side. If you've never heard of it, don't
You're
worry.
not a nerd like AJ.
But they were really tailored around digital musical experiences. So that was the when I was doing my research and stuff, that was the 3D environment that I was immersed in. And, listening to music by 3D avatars performing, it didn't do it for me. What did it more for me is I remember in high school, shout out to Danny, actually, he'll actually be reminiscing as I throw this out. When the Eagles got back together and they
Yes.
did the DVD,
Hell Freezes Over tour.
Hell Freezes Over tour.
Yep.
And I remember watching that actually probably with Danny back in the day. And like it wasn't live, but like to see them together and redo those, Hotel California, all acoustic, and watch the performance, even though that wasn't live. And the reason I'm using the DVD analogy with this is that I found out in some of these performances, they're pre-programmed. It's not
Yes.
like they're live scans
Yeah.
where you're not, and I'm not saying all the artists are doing this, but like, it's not a live stream. And that's where I'm getting at. Why not have these artists just do a live stream? Like Adele, during the pandemic, did like acoustic things from her bedroom or from her living room.
A lot of musicians did that. She actually did a more recent one at the top of the Griffith Observatory, which was fabulous. Anyway, watched it with my wife.
Cool.
This concept of live musical performance is something that's gone on for centuries.
Right.
We now have the opportunity to rethink how do we want to enjoy a live music performance. The live can be subject to interpretation.
Right.
The music, depending on what type of music you like, can also be subject. But okay, I said sad. It's a unique foray into something that hasn't been done before.
Sure.
Good on you for giving it a try. I still want to watch my guys put on a 6,
Or gals.
7, or 8 string. Yes, whoever is playing the guitar and shred it up.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and like I said, I find it sad because to me it reminds me of the early aughts,
Yes.
and I don't know, just because you're talking to a gamer here. Like, I love my video gaming. Don't get me wrong, but I don't feel that I don't feel like that level of quote immersion does any benefit for you. Like, it's really the music and the performer, not a digital representation.
Sure. All right, my turn.
Go.
Rad or sad, AJ, her connection hub.
Tell me more.
Okay. So just recently, for the past couple months,
Right.
in Bellingham, downtown, I believe on State Street,
Okay.
there was a corner office that was once occupied by Puget Sound Energy.
Oh, yeah,
That
yeah.
has been since overtaken by an alumnus of the Bellingham podcast Community Connections Conversation series, Heather Simpson.
Hey, Heather.
Hi, Heather. And it turns out that Heather has developed her Connection Hub, which is a working space for women in downtown Bellingham. And, to be able to have the Zoom meetings, to be able to have the connections, the collaborations with women in business or doing whatever they need to do online. Rad or sad?
Rad. I mean, just by the pitch that you gave me, I mean, one, I think this is good timing with like I was mentioning before, with the pandemic, and there's more and more reports coming out of like women in the workforce. Like there's like 2 million or 2 billion, I can't remember. It was an enormous amount of female professionals have just not re-entered the workplace. So if a place like this helps either with mentorship or allow for an avenue for somebody who is a full-time parent, whether you are male or female, a place so that you can take that Zoom call without having your 5-year-old party crash, I think that's cool.
I'll go rad as well. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to have the environment where you can get into a different mindset.
Yeah.
With whatever role you have in your home residence, that can be transitioned as you are walking, biking, hover, cycling.
Oh, yeah, the single wheel board thing.
That friggin' thing, yeah. Or driving to her connection hub downtown. Got to shoot straight with you, Heather. Love the idea. Continued success. I hope it will be a smashing, glorious success. But I'm a little envious because I like looking out at windows when I'm doing my work in a coffee shop type atmosphere. This isn't a coffee shop. This is a professional working environment.
Is it it's a co-working space?
I
right?
believe so. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm just a little envious because I identify as a male. But anyway, good luck to you and continued success to someone who's part of the Bellingham podcast story. You're next.
Sweet. Rad or sad, and this is a throwback to season 1.
Oh my goodness! We had a season.
Yeah, that season one or season 2.
There you go.
All right, longtime listeners of the Bellingham podcast or BPM Tech for all the way throwback.
Oh yeah.
There was our first argument on the mic where there was a train that went by.
Yes.
And you and I were hung up on basically it was rad or sad. It was the primordial rad or sad. And we were talking about the future of this notion of over-the-top streaming services. Remember that?
I could remember that, yeah.
Cord cutting.
Yes.
Rad or sad, now with the pandemic and everybody's been streaming, the situation of streaming services in this now, what we called OTT, over-the-top era.
I'm going to go sad just because I had that and there's something about the data that's being collected, when, where, what, whom, all the W's that some company is gathering about you, that they are going to sell based on an algorithm. They're going to market to someone else who's going to send you some type of ad just because my lovely daughter listens to, whomever the popular music artists are on my account on Apple Music because we're listening to it in the family room. Now I'm going to get ads for their concert coming up.
Right.
I'm going to call that sad. I've actually, in the final edition of my Gray Man Technology newsletter.
For the year.
Thank
you.
More to follow. I listed out all the things that changed in my life from a technological standpoint. One of them was I stopped using Apple Music.
Yeah.
And those streaming services, it's not like it's going to have everything you want. Now, you have millions of songs to choose from, but you may find that those songs that really matter to you from your days of youth are gone or grayed out in your playlist. And that's like Popeye says, that's all I can stand because I can't stand no more. And as soon as my Racer X was not in my 80s rock playlist, I had to take action, AJ, and I stopped the streaming services and I got my own Plex media server.
Right.
I'm streaming within my own curating my own Mr. Fusion jukebox. But as far as the big companies and their over the top, streaming with video content, audio content, et cetera, sad. I'm done with it.
So if you listen, so that's the same stance that you had back in that day.
Yes.
I was in the rad camp back then because I saw it as a discovery,
yes.
And the fact that I could flip it on or flip it off. Mm-hmm. I'm subscribed for a month and then I can drop it.
Yeah.
I am getting, although I still think I think that's a value add that we don't have to have cable and
sure.
all that other jazz. The thing about streaming services that I've now moved me over into the sad camp is a unintended consequence of the notion of streaming services being a replacement for a network. And what I mean by that is the content, like as a content creator, people buy my content.
Yes.
When I find a piece of content like a documentary or whatever, if they have an exclusivity with Amazon, Netflix, or whomever for streaming rights, you can't purchase. I can't go to the Apple store or Google store, whatever,
yep.
and buy that piece of content. And I found this for children's content, which if you're as it's the holiday season, and by the time this drops, I've been back from travels. Having a kiddo and having content offline that I own, that is a tool in the bat belt, and not having that and having to rely on streaming, no bueno. So as much back, 5 years ago, I said rad, and I still believe that. I think having streaming services, turning it on, turning off for Discovery, I think is totally rad. What I'm sad about is the fact that now the over-the-top services, the streaming services, have now become the replacement for the ogolopoly that was the networks, and you can't, if you want to, buy the content that you want, so you can own it.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of a quiet shift now that the internet bandwidth has been able to permit video, and not a lot. You used to pay one for all the cable. What?
Audio too. Like there's some albums that are only streaming exclusive.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, you are correct. Your mileage may vary based on your preferences.
See for details.
That's right. I think we need to continue that conversation on a future episode. Just to
Audiophilia Part 3.
There you go. That works out. Cool. The last one that I got for Rad or Sad are paywalls, requiring accounts and memberships in order to read a website's story online, mostly from a news source,
right?
Or local or national. AJ, Rad or Sad?
Okay, so rad, but not for what you think.
Tell me why it's rad.
So here's the thing, okay? And this is something, as someone who has been on Patreon since the inception of Jack Conte starting it up. The fact is that, and this is something that I've taught, this is something I've lectured on, content costs. Yes, our show is free. We have done that since the inception because we monetize a different way. But here's the thing. We need to have the ability for content creators, whether they are journalists, whether they are musicians, artists, whomever, to be able to monetize and, quite frankly, go direct to source. So if you have a fan base and they want to support you, whether that is through crypto or through Substack, like the BellionPodcast.substack.com,
that's right,
or whomever, I'm okay with that. And having the ability to have paid and free content, I'm okay with that. Like that is a way for you to create your content and get paid for your work. Now, where I feel that it is sad, and I haven't seen this a lot, there's been some crises where breaking news, and I can't read the whole thing unless I have a subscription. It's breaking, if it's a shooting, if it's a natural disaster, there's this juxtaposition of public good that needs to be done, and that needs to be free because you need to inform the people, versus creative content like, our local publish house,
yes, that
will, there's not much you can read on their site.
Oh, there might be, but that's a different conversation.
I heard that there's an antidote.
There could be.
But no, I'm going to say it's rad in the fact that if it is equitable for being able to have creators get paid for their content and have supporters that can front it.
Sure. I'll say sad just because I don't like any kind of barrier or anyone from authority saying you can't read this or something like that. Here's the thing. I agree with you that content creators should be compensated for their efforts. If I'm going to a show, and I've done this on a number of occasions where I see an artist that I really enjoy, hi Scott Morgan, love your work, I will buy the CDs that are at the merch table. Yeah. Even though I have their stuff on MP3, because I know that money is going directly to them. Yep. If there's a great author, and I'm going to throw Fast Company under the bus, for example, or Vox Media or something like
completely.
That. If there's an author or a writer who has an article that I find to be engaging, after the first paragraph, dangle the carrot, okay. If I'm going to pay money for that account to Fast Company or one of these online sites, will they get the lion's share of that money? Probably not. That's going to the corporation. I'm sorry, this is where I start to rebel. I'd rather find the way, like you talked about, Ghost, Substack, these other paid platforms, but it takes a lot for them to be able to get to a ramp-up version to where they get to receive the majority of the funds sent their way. And for what I'm doing, Gray Man Technology newsletter, that is free. I'm doing a brain dump. I've heard from some of the people that subscribe, it's a little nerdy, which is fine.
Yeah.
If you're into it, cool. If you want to learn about something, that's one thing. But I don't want to charge you for it. Unless you want to hire me to do, that's a different conversation.
Again, we've monetized differently.
We have a different mindset when it comes to this podcast. We're just doing it. because we enjoy it. And, you know,
And we enjoy all of you.
absolutely. And we enjoy you so much. We're going to let you get back to your day by wrapping up this show.
Ooh, that's a good dovetail. And that wraps up this last edition for 2021 of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us, wherever you like to get our podcast. Remember, if you are in the Bellingham area, hopefully you're bundled up and you're listening to us on KMRE 102.3 FM.
And they're streaming all over the darn internet when it's available, when Amazon Web Services isn't crashed at kmre.org. And oh, by the way, I don't know if KMRE is hosted on AWS, but basically, if the internet's up, KMRE will get you a hookup.
And even if the AWS is down, you can catch us on Saturdays.
That's
over
right, at
the air.
3 p.m.
There
That's
we go.
right.
On that note, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm AJ Barce.
And may 2022 be a year of less for you all. Less stress, less chaos, less items to have to juggle in your life, less sickness, less everything along those lines. You know what I'm saying. I'm Chris Powell. Thanks very much for joining us as we conclude 2021 on the Bellingham Podcast. To another year.
Cheers.
Cheers.